Okay, good evening, everyone. Wow, another great night. Thank you very much for coming along tonight. Quick apologies. Tonight we've got John Payne and Susan Fick. Apologies for anyone else? Simon Harrick. Graham Miller.
And Andrew Hall.
And does anyone want to apologise for themselves or anything? Larry Crouch, are you? Yes? You're not apologising for being here? Okay, all right. Minutes from the last meeting were circulated a week or so ago. So hopefully someone saw them. Russell Thomas, thank you very much.
I think we're enough to agree with you.
I hope that's not the agenda, sir.
Yes, it is. Be quiet.
Oh, sorry. It's a number of agendas. I've got a lot of agendas. New members. Now, I did notice Terry up the back. Would you mind just standing up, introducing yourself, and tell us what you drive?
Okay, mate. Well, I've just bought a 06118i.
Only had it a week or so?
Yeah, I've only had it a week or so.
Yeah.
Already driven up through the back roads behind Boona and Bow Desert on Sunday morning. Great fun.
Excellent.
Came back to the brand after having an E21 318 a few years ago. Ex-wife problems.
Oh, of course. Speaking of coming back, hello. Where have you been for the last 3 years, young fella?
Don't ask him to stand up, Gary. Stand up, Gary.
Yes.
I won't.
So, yeah, I've seen you getting around the Club Gold Coast, and now you come back to join us as well.
Yeah, excellent.
Thank you very much.
Unfortunately, I joined this club initially in 2002, mainly to get into motorsport. And now I'm rejoining, but I think my motorsport days are done.
You're doing more for the
Sorry.
Well, you can just drive a bit slower.
Hey Dave, I'll drive your Porsche for you at the track if you like.
And there's plenty offering for the M3 as well.
Is it? Right, good.
Is there any business arising from the previous minutes that anyone would like to discuss? No? Okay. All right, let's keep moving. John Tate, Treasury Report. Would you like to...
Just put me in charge.
Yeah, off you go.
Okay. The 2020 financial year audit report was completed on the 20th of April. Waves it menacingly. There was an overall surplus of $14,148 and no problems were identified with club financial procedures. The current cash position is $62,000-ish. This is close to the end of the financial year figure. And the reason for that is we've had considerable expenditure on club assets, such as a couple of marquees, flags, a laptop, associated software, costs of changing websites and all that. Most of this because BMW Germany decided to change the logo, and so we have too. The club is in a financially sound position and can meet all its obligations. Has anyone got any questions?
When we go and see.
I just told you, Dennis, we've made no money. Weren't you listening? That's all I have to say. Thank you very much.
And thank you, John. John's done a fantastic job to pick up the Treasury role again and run with it and get it all sorted out, get us to the auditor. everyone's happy, and we're ploughing along again. So thank you. Leanne, do you have anything you'd like to discuss as far as secretarial is concerned?
No, we're just waiting once we get our AGM sorted, with which we have all our paperwork and whatever, so that can go out when the time is of essence.
Yes.
And once we do that, we then will do another renewal with the Office of Fair Trading, which will put us back into the correct cycle of registrations and everything. It was postponed, obviously, because of COVID, so they gave the clubs grace to do a renewal, and by the time you try and got your AGM and that done, so that's all done and dusted. So we're sort of heading, we're back on rails again in the normal procedures and that for the club. So everything's all in order. All the information for the positions as registered with the Office of Fair Trading is all accurate, and so that's where we are. I haven't got any other communication, so everyone seems to be okay with everything that's going on.
Great.
Just a question on that. You'll have your AGM in June.
Yes.
And the following year you'll go back to April again, or go to June?
We'll probably stay at June. We'll just see how it goes. It was sort of, the whole thing was thrown up in the air because of last year, and we didn't want to have it too soon. But yeah, so it's. I think we have to have it within 6 months of the end of the previous financial year. Yeah, so it's sort of June is the last month that we can have it.
On that,
yes.
Previous years, AGM June, in April, the new management took over the 1st of July, I believe.
That's not legal. By law, they check April.
That's what I was going to ask. So you do June, AGM in June, and the new crew will take over in June.
Correct.
At the meeting.
At the meeting, that's, yeah.
And that's in accordance with the incorporations.
The incorporation we had.
They were operating illegal for a long time.
So the previous 18 years, the AGMs have been basically null and void.
Yep. Well, the AGM.
Well, the procedures.
We were operating illegally.
Just the procedures have been more clarified, and therefore we're working in accordance to the rules and regulations of how you're supposed to conduct your AGM, when and where and how.
It might have been never seen fair trading in those days. So
Over the years, the rulings and that have been more tightened and made more definite on how you go. So we're in compliance with everything. So we're just going ahead and we're...
When we took over, we looked at, the Constitution again and the Office of Fair Trading, and with JT's help, we sorted out, how it should happen according to the Office of Fair Trading. So, yeah. Membership. Unfortunately, John Payne is not available tonight. He was saying that 10 new members in the last month, with a total membership of 393. I was going to say, I hope that we can, push it across 400 shortly. But yes, anyway, 393. Membership, as mentioned in Treasury Report, we've purchased a new laptop for membership, so that the laptop can have all the membership software installed on it, so that when membership changes, the new membership person doesn't have to get everything going on his machine and get the card printer working on his machine. So we've got one laptop that's club asset, so that if a membership changes, membership, card printer, all goes, you press the button and it all works. So, and that laptop will be used at Show of Excellence next weekend to do all the scoring on location. New membership cards, The plan is, if you haven't heard, we're going to do away with having one every 12 months. We're going to do a one-run membership card for everyone, just with your member since on there, and that's just being designed at the moment and will be printed shortly. New membership flyers, again, for David Hack on Sunday and the Show of Excellence the following weekend. New membership flyers to hand out for prospective people. Obviously, a lot of this is driven by the fact that we've changed the logo. So all the old stuff that we had is now redundant.
Just an adjunct to what you were saying there about the cards being a perpetual card, I suppose you'd say.
Yep.
For those people that want proof that they are current members, if you have the app, the club app or the Wild Apricot app on your phone, as soon as you open that app, it says on there when your membership is that you're current and how long, what date your membership is. So if you're looking for a discount at a supplier, that's all you've got to do is pull up the app on your phone and show them.
And that also proves that you're a current member, because the app goes to our Wild Apricot system, and it automatically shows whether your membership is valid. So that app is free. The credentials are exactly the same as logging into the website, and it's cross-platform. It's either iPhone or Android. It's a free app. So if you need any help, please reach out, contact me, contact John Payne, and we'll walk you through it.
If you want to enter events, it's just there and you just hit it and it's done.
Yeah. So the app shows us all the events, all the membership, all that sort of stuff. So it's quite a good app. Okay, Greg Timms.
Righto. Okay. So before I get into and I'm the drive coordinator, right? So I'm going to talk to you about drives. We all love driving. We're in BMW, so it's an enjoyable experience when we go out and drive in our cars.
Depends who's driving.
Okay, there's always the fine print, see? Depends if she's had a coffee or not. Righto.
That was a golden opportunity.
It was, wasn't it? Smack. Okay, before I get started, I just wanted to take the opportunity to thank all the members that have supported the last two drives that I've organised, which was the Linville run and the Biawar run, right? So they were very well supported, up over 50 odd people, and multiple cars. So it's pleasing to have that sort of support. I want to let you know, because if we do all this organising and only about 12 to 14 people turn up, then it's not quite as gratifying as when you've got 58 people in 36 cars. That sort of scenario. So thanks for that support. Also, I need to thank Gary for his support, because I'm still at the apprenticeship stage when it comes to the Google Map route instructions. I'm still learning, but as a team effort we eventually get there, and so those route instructions that are available on the runs, take advantage of them, because a lot of effort has gone in to putting them together. Okay, so thanks Gary for that. Now, our next run is Sunday, so it's the David Hack Classic. Registrations I've just closed off about half an hour ago. So we've got 29 people in 21 cars coming on Sunday. Now, 2 or 3 or 4 of them, in fact, is Brendan Cook here tonight? No, okay. He was on the listing and he's from Toowoomba. So I'm thinking the people that are in Toowoomba, won't come all the way down to Brisbane, then to drive back all the way up to Toowoomba. You understand what I'm saying? So we've got 29 people in 21 cars. We've got 10 minis at the moment. So we're partnering with Club Mini. So that's 31 cars in one convoy, almost. Probably, let's say, 18 cars and 10. So 28 cars going all the way to Toowoomba on Sunday. Okay, so we are assembling at the Puma at City Switch, Bundamba, 6 o'clock. That's the one. Leaving at 6:30.
That's on the Warrego up.
Yeah. When you go over the fly over from the Ipswich Road, it's that
Intersection of the Warrego and the Cunningham Highway.
Yeah, when you go over that flyover, it's just over there on the left up.
Good. So, it'll be an early start. And it'll be cold. So, for some of you, you may hear an alarm come on that you've never heard before, because every BMW has an alarm that comes on and sounds when the temperature falls below 3 degrees.
No, 46.
Older ones. Well, there you go. But every one that we've owned has had an alarm come on when it gets to 3 degrees or below. And that's mainly for Europe, because then black ice sometimes appears and it gets rather dangerous. So if you hear an alarm happening, don't get too concerned. Shouldn't be too much black ice here in Brisbane. Okay. Now we're travelling up to Toowoomba via the Warrego Highway and the new Toowoomba bypass. So that's a toll road. So make sure you've got your e-tag machine or device with you so that you pay the toll. We're going to take the Boundary Street exit. It's called Boundary Street. I'll be leading, but I'll explain all this on Sunday to the people that are going. But for your information, we'll be taking the Boundary Street exit, turning left there, going down to Taylor Street, turning left at Taylor Street, and coming along Taylor Street to Greenwattle Street. And we will turn left at Greenwattle and go into the event and the venue. Now the club is going to pay for the entry to the event. It's $10 per car. So what I'd like to see happen is this. So I'll be leading. I'll pull up either left or right of the entry gate there, depending where it's safe, and hop out. So don't anyone move from until you're sort of waved through, because we'll be counting all the beamers. Hopefully they're all together. And then I'll be giving monies to the gate person for everyone that's going through at that moment in time. Okay?
We'll go through the usual back.
Yeah. That's the only entrance.
Yeah. So that's the plan. That's the theory. That's, fingers crossed, that's how it'll happen. Now the club marquee will be on display, so that's good. And Vic, I've already spoken to Vic, he's going to be there a bit earlier. And Brian. So we'll have the marquee. And what do you reckon? Like you'll be sort of halfway along the line? Yeah. Okay, so the plan will be we'll park as many beamers from the start of that road right through to the marquee. Any further beamers past the marquee, and then the minis will fit in where they can past that. Okay, that's the plan. Alrighty. Now, if you need to leave early, you can. Just be cautious of the fact there's, a few thousand people walking around. So don't go racing down the aisle.
Usually, if you want to leave early, you've got to get one of their people to guide you out. You can't just leave on your own. You've got to get someone to guide you out.
Righto. That would be the plan. All right, so that's our next event.
Also, people coming from Brisbane, it is getting cold. There is a nasty, sneaky breeze up there. So the 16 degrees, if on the day, lose the 1 and it'll be probably more accurate.
I'm just looking here and it's saying 16 degrees, feel in the shade. It was 14 a minute ago, just changed to 15.
So,
and 4 degrees up.
Airport, it is open.
Yeah.
So
We're going to get to Toowoomba at 7:30 in the morning, and it won't be all that hot at 7:30 in the morning. So wear a jacket and a beanie
Windshield.
and a scarf and whatever else that you need.
And shoes.
Yeah, Ugg boots. There you go. Okay.
The other thing is, anyone that brings pets can't have dogs on federal land on airport.
So no pets allowed.
No pets allowed.
Right, there you go. That's fine, Brent. No pets allowed.
Yeah, he said someone had to take one home from Black Soil one night. No, guy in a green M5. One of Dan Hoagie's mates. Yeah, he took his pug along. His bulldog, and you can't take it.
It's French. That's another story. Okay, so that's the next run on Sunday. After that, we've got a full schedule in June and July, so we're just going to struggle to find another date where we can sort of organise another run. So bear with us whilst the burst of activity, other social activity and other events happens, and then we'll get in another run as soon as we can, all right? I know you all enjoy them, and we won't forget the fact that you may not have a run for a couple of months, okay? Now, the other event I want to just quickly chat about, which I will at this event and every future event right up until March next year, is the Canberra Nationals. So the Canberra BMW Clubs Australia Nationals are being held in March next year, March 11 to 14 in 2022. And I've organised a run down to the Nationals. So we're leaving on March 8. So it's going to go from Bow Desert down to Grafton, and Grafton down to Armidale for the first day. Okay, so if you enjoy road trips, like I'm hoping you do, this is a good one. This is a good one to, prepare for. So it's about 1,300 k's the way I'm going from Brisbane to Canberra, and we're going to go Summerland Way down to Grafton, Waterfall Way into Armidale, spend the night in Armidale, then from Armidale go through to Tamworth, Gunnedah, and just past Gunnedah you turn left and go down the Black Stump Way towards Coolah, Gulgong, Mudgee, that sort of area. Get into Ilford, turn right and come up over the Safala Hill into Bathurst. We're going to spend the second night at Bathurst, staying at the Ridges Hotel at Mount Panorama, right there on the chase at Mount Panorama. Of course, there's no event on. It won't be, obscene rates when Bathurst on. So Russell here is going to look after us and get a very good mates rates so we can sort of enjoy the opportunity to be there.
I just remember we've got a discount voucher. Does it transfer?
No. That was for the Ridges on the Gold Coast. Then after that, after Bathurst, we go to Canberra. And it's only a short trip down to Canberra. We go via Blaney, Crookwell, Gunning, back into the Federal Highway, hang a right and go straight into Canberra. Okay? So if you like road trips, that's a good one to plan for. So March 2022. We'll get an announcement out via an e-newsletter as soon as we can as well.
Can I suggest a slight deviation on the way back through Forbes and take it to the Fingers Car Museum, which is fantastic.
Possibly, yeah. Yeah,
Pretty,
I know where you're coming
pretty
from.
remote place to get to otherwise.
I know.
Unless you drive between here and
That's right. Out of the way, isn't it? So that's something that you can consider if you like those sort of events. It's a wonderful social event. Take 3 days off to go down, 4 days for the Nationals, 3 days to come back if you want it. Okay? So there you go. Any questions? No? All good? Righto. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Greg. Russell Thomas, come on down.
All right, here we go. Just going to run through some of the past events. Saturday the 10th of April, we had the cruise to lunch. We had 38 members attend the cruise to lunch. Thanks to everyone who did attend on the day. I think everyone really enjoyed themselves. We had some great service on the boat and also at the Brecky Creek and some great food. So thanks again for coming. Also, we had some great weather on the river and it made a really entertaining day for all concerned. So thank you. Sunday the 2nd of May, we had the go-kart morning and barbecue breakfast at Kingston Park. So we had 28 members attend the event with 20 drivers. Thanks to Vic and Alex for cooking the barbie. And we had Ingrid, John, Marion and Kerry assisting with the other breakfast tasks. Thank you very much. Gary was also in his element on the day documenting the whole event. He had a new piece of kit with him called the go-kart cam. He had it mounted on his own dedicated cart and thankfully it was waterproof, guys.
It was, I wasn't.
So the morning started with some patchy rain, then it cleared for the car display on the track, which was really spectacular. We got some great drone footage of the cars. Then everyone did a few laps around the track in their bimmers. After that, we hit the Le Mans track in our Schumacher karts. Unfortunately, the rain did return in the middle of racing. We had 4 race events, and out of 4, it rained on 3 of those events. Anyway, and at that point, we all thought we were at the actual wrong event. We thought we were actually at the skid pan day. But no, we're at the go-karting, but it just seemed that way. So Dennis, I'm not sure where you were on the day. We really needed your advice. So obviously the members that had good racing experience and weren't carrying a few kilos like some of us did quite well on the track. But everyone had a fun day, and thank you to everyone who attended. Congratulations goes out to the winners. First place, Rod Campbell. Second place, Roman Miller. And third place, Joshua Devine. And lucky last, Amanda Russell. The trophy there. Rod will get his name engraved on there. We'll hand that out to him at the end of the year at our gala night. Yeah, so thanks again for all the members that attended, and as well as Peter Chapman from Kingston Park Raceway, who went above and beyond for us. All right, upcoming events. We got a Barefoot Bowls afternoon and barbecue lunch at the Merthyr Bowls Club. So come along if you're interested. There'll be a barbecue lunch included, obviously, overlooking the Brisbane River from 11:30 to 1 p.m. And that's going to be steak, sausages, sarde chicken skewers, chips and salad, so good lunch. And then we got team bowls from 1 to 3 p.m. So it's $20 per member to attend that event, so please come along. Does anyone know how to play bowls?
I was there for a Christmas party a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
Yeah. So what's the coloured ball that you throw? What's that called?
That's the jack.
No.
That's a kitty.
No, the actual...
The bowl.
The bowl, that's correct. It's not a ball, yeah. And the small white ball is called the... Kitty. Kitty or... Jack. Got it. And what's the aim of the game?
Get the ball.
Smash those balls into the gutter.
And get the bowl as close as you can to the kitty. That's it.
Yeah.
And what do we play on, Dick?
Grass.
And it's called a... Green. Got it.
Green grass.
And the line that you go down is called a...
That's what you get when you're over 60.
All
Are
right.
we lining you up for your pie for your bowl?
And it's only underarm bowling.
Correct.
That's good point.
Good Kiwi comment.
No, Vic's going to join the bowl.
No, he's not. No, he's not. There won't be one of them white out sitting in the back of my car. I'll give you the drum.
Simon Harris says we did roll in one day.
It's going to be good fun, guys. So Sunday the 27th of June for that one. Saturday the 24th of July. Sunday the 27th of June.
I'll still be drunk.
That's right, you will.
It'll be more fun then.
Okay, Saturday 24th of July. We all know what's on that weekend. King Ludwig's. I won't go over that again. All the details are on our website, so jump on there, have a look. And then through to August, Saturday the 28th of August, we got a VIP whale watching experience and lunch on Moreton Bay, departing from Redcliffe Jetty. So we booked the VIP cabin on the purpose-built 3-level whale watching vessel called I Spy, which is based out the Redcliffe Jetty. Members who attend will have exclusive use of the BMW Club Queensland VIP mid-deck cabin, which is positioned directly behind the wheelhouse. The event is strictly limited to 49 VIP members, so get in quick. The cost is $135 for an adult, it's usually $165, and concessions are $125, usually $155. So your ticket gets you priority VIP lunch and drink service in the cabin, gourmet picnic lunch including chicken ham, garden salad, potato salad and fruit and more, dedicated cabin crew in the VIP cabin as well, complimentary drink, and extensive and informative commentary along the way. Guys, we're heading out to Moreton Bay Marine Park, so hopefully we're going to see some turtles and sharks and stingrays, manta rays and dolphins, and obviously the whales. So, yep, get in and book that one. If you'd like to attend, it's going to probably fill up fairly quick. And that's it. The 28th of August. Yep.
I've done that trip on Ice Boy 3 times. And
Oh, wow.
The boat and Kerry is fantastic.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I've seen one way
One
in
way.
3 trips, and it was a long way.
We're going at the end of August, so it's the peak season, and we got the whales migrating north and back to south with the calves and everything as well. Migaloo, yeah. So should be great.
Fantastic. Whilst we're talking social, one of the events that we're working on and we would like to make a big success this year, it's the 30th anniversary of the incorporation of BMW Club Queensland. Club Queensland is older than that, but incorporation was 30 years ago. It was in 1991. So we would like to have combine our gala dinner prize winning with this event, and we're trying to find venues and looking around for somewhere special for that event. So stay tuned. It should be good. Okay, sponsorship advertising. It's sort of just fallen by the wayside a little bit at the moment with all the other stuff going on. The editor's report for the newsletter, mea culpa, I'm not coping with doing the newsletter. So I'm going to put a big push out for help. Anyone who has the skills to either write the stories, gather the stories, help me out doing it. It's just I'm finding it too much. I just don't have the time to write the stories, gather the photos, and lay it all out and do all that sort of stuff. So if anyone knows anyone who can help, please give us a shout. I sort of need someone within the club who goes to events to write stories and write articles. Yeah. Okay. All right. Whilst you're chatting, come up and chat.
We've only got one motorsport event coming up. Everybody probably knows by now that the Charity Day now clashes, or the original date for the Charity Day on the 13th of June clashed with the new date and time and venue for Motorfest. So both events involve car clubs, and predominantly our club, it was prudent to move the Charity Day. Unfortunately, the only date that was available at Lakeside for the rest of the year was October the 3rd, I think it is, which is the actual long weekend, but it was the only date to move it to. But I don't think that's a bad thing. It gives us plenty of time to organise for the Charity Day now, and hopefully we'll get some great attendance and make some good money for whatever charities we decide later in the year. In lieu of the Charity Day being moved, it left a fairly big hole in our motorsport calendar. So I looked at the QR calendar, and they have an open sprint the day before on the Saturday the 12th at Lakeside, and at this stage no one else has booked any other blocks at that event. It's just QR were going to use it for their own thing. So I've booked 2 blocks for that, so it's a Saturday afternoon. We have 2 of our own groups, even though there'll be 2 other groups there probably on the day, but that's QR's people.
Is that
or
June
Lakeside.
or July, Dennis?
June, sorry, did I say July?
I wasn't sure.
No, 12th of June, so 4 weeks away. What we're going to do with the day, as I said, luckily booking two groups, we can run a faster and a slower group. So there's something there for everybody at whatever pace you're used to driving at Lakeside. If you haven't driven at Lakeside before, great opportunity. If you can't get to our Friday track days, then here's an opportunity for you to come out and do a track day at Lakeside, or an afternoon. And just to make it something different, I'm going to run it as what I'm calling a consistency sprint. So unlike the regularities where we do a proper regularity, where you go out and have a practice first and then nominate a time and try and drive to as close as you can to that time for the rest of the day, no nominating, no practice, go out and drive it at whatever pace you want, no restrictions on what pace you might want to do. But as I said, we'll have a faster and a slower group. Then we'll work out what your average lap time was for the day, and from that then we'll work out a scoring, so whatever distance you've got from your average lap time on your laps is where you'll get a score, and the person with the lowest score on the day will win the day, and there's a little trophy for it. So just a little standalone event, something a bit different, and something for everyone. That's all there is on the motorsport scene at the moment. Coming up after that one will be our Morgan Park double-header weekend, which is the Saturday the 17th and 18th of July. That's two different events on the Saturday and the Sunday. The Saturday event is round 4, I think it is, of the Interclub Challenge. So all the other clubs, the Mini Club and all the other 9 clubs, I think it is, that are involved in Interclub will be up there. It's open to anyone who's a member of our club. You do need to be members of all the individual clubs to actually participate in that event. And on the Sunday is just Porsche Club, and we've been invited to join the Porsche Club, so it'll be just BMW Club and Porsche Club there on the Sunday, and we've made that round 4 of our sprint series as well. So it should be a great day. We've got some people coming just for one day, some coming for both. I'm going through nightmares trying to organise accommodation because it is the first weekend of Jumpers and Jazz Festival, and Warwick's been completely booked for a long time. The nearest place to it is Killarney, 20 minutes out of Warwick, 15 to 20 minutes out of Warwick. I booked both the motels in Warwick fully. I booked all the rooms in both motels initially. But for the last 6 weeks I've been going through hell with the Killarney Hotel, and I think to date it was 13 phone calls I've had with them, and the upshot of it is that they've gone and let 3 of the rooms that we had booked to others. So we have at the moment just enough rooms to cover those that have expressed interest, but what there is, they're motel rooms, but the pub itself has hotel rooms, and they've got plenty of hotel rooms available. They tell me they're very nice and modern. They just don't have private facilities. So if anybody does want to come up, even just socially for the weekend, there's the Jumpers and Jazz on. Let me know and I'll tell you who to talk to about getting some more accommodation.
Okay.
That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Vaughan Wishart is still away at the moment, so apologies for him as well. Alex Irvine, we've been really busy with the new merchandise, and Alex has been doing a fantastic job. Thank you very much. That's absolutely wonderful. As you can see, there's some new shirts getting around. Also, Russell Dean is working with his developer. If you go onto our club website, there is a store button now. If you click on that, you can go through and you can see a whole lot of the merchandise that we're creating. It's not actually active yet, but it will be to the extent where you'll be able to select the item if it's available, purchase it online, and order it, and it'll all just happen. That's the plan. But as you can see, I'm wearing a brand new shirt that Alex had done. He's done some for Leanne here as well. The ladies fit with nice tailored, longer tail, all sorts of nice things. So I'm really proud of what's been happening so far, and thank the guys so much for all the trouble they're going to, because I think it'll be fantastic. We've even got one of the other clubs is asking if we can show them how it's all happening so that we can do it. So Alex, would you like to talk to people about what's happening with your stuff? Grab a seat.
Evening, everybody. Gary's told you what we've been doing. Rather than try and do things on the cheap, we're trying to get better quality stuff, better, more tailored. I can turn the embroidery around or orders in a 2 to 3 week maximum. So with the shop, it'll have ability to order a lot of the garments, top of the range, available on order. And I'll place the orders probably on a Thursday to get the stock in, so on the following Monday we can embroider. So we can work on getting better shirts. These shirts are very high cotton content, so they're comfortable to wear. I can't get better than those. But at $55, a shit shirt is 40 to 45.
Yeah.
That's right.
So you're better to get, just go that little bit extra. Okay, but we've got new window stickers underway, inners and outers. We've got very competitive prices on the new metal grille badges. So I'm just waiting for artwork to come back on that. But the price is sorted. It took a little bit of negotiating, but it's actually cheaper or identical to do it locally here in Australia than it is from China. Mainly because our logo is an 8-colour logo, and once I get over 4 colours, China starts getting out of hand. It's hard work to do 8 colours and orders of 50. They don't want to know about it. But it's all sorts. We're just trying to get the image up a little bit crisper, and not carrying a lot of stock. The only stock we'll carry is of these shirts in white or blue, probably 1 per size. So at the moment I'm virtually sold out. There's more going through, so we'll have them for next weekend. They'll be available, and the following week at Belmont. So there'll be stock for that. So if anyone else has got ideas, I suggest, as I showed to Gary, we sat down and went through the new BMW lifestyle brochure, for want of a word, from Germany. 137 pages.
Yeah. It's amazing.
Some of the items we like are on page 113, 114 and 23. But the colours are all muted, earthy colours, and the logos are simple. They've just changed the whole image. There's nothing gaudy, right? It's just nice, all nice stuff. So we're looking at that and getting ideas from that. We're looking at a T-shirt, which we've been talking about, but I can put a T-shirt together if we get a run of 25 or 50 that we can retail into you at around the $15 mark. We can get down to that with a 1-colour print. So 20, similar to what John's got on, but that's got 2 to 3 colours of grey on the front. We can certainly do a $20 mark. Okay, but we need to make sure it's the right artwork and the right image. Anyway, I'm open to ideas from people. Don't be frightened. Some people have ordered 1 jacket, a guy from the Gold Coast. Anyway, it's done, it's ready, you'll pick it up at Belmont.
No, it's fantastic. Okay, thanks again, Alex. Okay, Leanne, correspondence, there's nothing?
Haven't received anything.
Nothing?
So.
Yeah, no, it's been, the letterbox has been empty. Okay, delegates report. We've got a big weekend this weekend. The Clubs Australia have their AGM once a year. That's why it's called an AGM, because it's an annual general meeting. Oh, I'm quick. But it's been moved and pushed around and moved and pushed around. This coming Sunday, they've decided to have a Zoom meeting. So I'm the delegate, Leanne's the observer for Queensland. So Sunday afternoon, we get together, hook up Australia-wide with all the other clubs, official car clubs and bike clubs, and we go through the Clubs Australia agenda. So I'm going to have to leave Toowoomba early, get out somehow. But anyway, I'm sure that will happen. And I'll report on that at the next meeting, or our AGM. General business. Our new marquees have arrived. Again, combination of 2 things. Change of logo and some insurance damage. So we've now got new logos, new club flags have been ordered. Hopefully they'll be ready for the Show of Excellence next weekend. New membership flyers done and printed. I came across a really interesting scheme. I was contacted by a member from the Sunshine Coast, Ross Ingersoll. I think his surname is. He drives an E30 convertible. He asked me if we had a program for the special interest vehicles, the Club Regos, a program called impromptu events. So basically what this is, because Club Rego vehicles, it's quite strict, and the police and Department of Motor Transport really clamp down on people driving cars under Club Rego, and it has to be on a sanctioned club event. But now there's a scheme that Department of Motor Transport recognises called an impromptu event. So any member can decide that they want to hold an event or go for a drive as long as it is club sanctioned. And the way this club, it's called the Roadrunners Club, they actually use our system, the Wild Apricot management system. So it means that they just have a permanent event on their club calendar called Special Interest Vehicle Event, and it just goes every day of every month. But you just go on there. So what you have to do is you have to go on there and you have to register on the day that you're holding your event as such. Now, that event has to be open to other club members, but it doesn't mean that they have to go. It just means that you are legally bound to register your impromptu event onto the club calendar, and then it becomes sanctioned and you can drive your club registered vehicle. So I'm waiting to hear back from the organisers of that club, and fortunately the guy is a solicitor, so he's looked at the legal ramifications of it all, and hopefully it will be a simple process of instigating it, putting it on our club calendar, and that means anyone with a special interest vehicle, Club Rego, can go on, register for an event and go for a drive.
So you can do this Sunday morning, go get out and run your special event.
That changed about 3 years ago. Yeah, I brought it up at the time. Basically, you can... no, I was going to say, at the time, from what I was led to believe, it doesn't even have to be the official website, as long as it's something that's linked through the club, e.g. Facebook. So it can be put up as a Facebook post. Put up a Facebook post, I'm going for a drive from here to Sunshine Coast, anybody want to join me?
Yeah.
And from what I was led to believe at the time, actually I spoke to...
Yeah, well, I'd rather it be on the website because I want to push people to the website, and some people don't use Facebook. So,
as I said, it doesn't. Okay. It isn't that strictly, but it's flexible. As I said.
Right. Okay. As I said, I was totally unaware of it, and it was club member asked me, and so that's
so basically you can create your own event.
Yeah.
So what's the website? It's called Roadrunners.
Yeah, it's Roadrunners Car Club. And if you look at their website, they actually have a page, SIV, for special vehicles.
And we're all linked up with them, so if we go on...
Well, no, we're not linked up with them. I'm just using them as an example of how they do it. So what I'm trying to do is I'll set the same thing up for us, so that that any of our people who have special interest vehicles, Club Rego vehicles, can use that facility. So it's literally a matter of clicking on the website, go book an event, done, go for a drive.
And so when do you expect to have it done? Is it sometime soon?
Well, as soon as I get a phone call back from this guy that I got a call in, and I only found out about it on Tuesday, so I'm just waiting. I put a call in for him, waiting for a call back, and it would be simple as then just creating an event on the website and people can go on it. So
it'd probably be prudent to put some guidelines in there as well of what is allowable, because a lot of people don't know that you can use your special interest vehicle for family events and things like that. You don't.
What they have also done, they've created a whole page for it, and all those all that information is downloadable. So yeah. Okay, quickly, show of excellence. We've got judges. Fantastic response from the club. Thank you very much. Great. So many people have put their hand up to be judges for our event. That's so good. So we've Vic and I made a video a couple of days ago, an instructional video for all the judges. Sent that out. John Tate updated all the information about the judging. That all went out to the judges as well. So everyone should be on station for that. In this next few days, we'll then send out to all the registrants who are coming some more information. Okay, I'm running out of time. These guys have been so patient. Sorry?
That closes in 4 days. Right.
Yes, the Show of Excellence on the 18th, I think it is. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Any other general business? I'd like to move on to our guest speakers for the evening. Guys, sorry. Come over and join us. So, this evening we've got two gentlemen from Royal Precision Lubricants, correct? Yep. I was speaking to John Payne just recently, and he mentioned that with his new the race car he's building, he's going to be using these guys' oil in his race car, and I noticed a livery on John's race car. So John mentioned to me about this company, and they decided they'll come along and talk to us. So,
thanks, Gary.
Okay, Brent Bates and Bill, surname? Slegtenhorst. Thank you very much. I was desperately trying to remember it.
Not German, but it was close. Yeah. Just next door, isn't it? All right, thanks, Gary. I'm going to start off just very briefly. I'll give you a bit of an overview of who we are, because probably most of you haven't heard of Royal Precision Lubricants before. We've been around for over 25 years. Started off as a brand in Melbourne. We are an Australian-based and owned company, pretty much a family business, in fact. And we've been operating, as I say, for 25 years. We manufacture and market lubricants, obviously, and we do a very broad range of lubricants, including engine oils, gear oils, transmission oils, hydraulic oils, and so on, but we don't do everything. So, there's some very specialised lubricants where the market's not big enough for us to get involved in, and so we don't do those, but we do all the common ones, and they're all marketed throughout Australia, New Zealand, and even partly into Southeast Asia. We've got two blending facilities, one here in Brisbane at Narangba on the north side, and another one in Melbourne at Dandenong South, and we blend around 4 million litres a year between the two sites. We operate under a quality assurance system, which is third-party accredited and conforms to the international standard ISO 9001, and we've had that accreditation now for over 20 years. We also have warehouses in Townsville and Perth, so we're spreading our wings, and it's probably fair to say that our growth has been more significant over the last 7 or 8 years. The early years it was a very slow start. It's a very competitive and difficult industry to get into, but that's where we are. So that's a bit of a brief of our company, and what we thought we'd do now is get Bill to give you a bit of a talk, if you like, on lubricants, and not go into too much technical detail, but give you an idea of how they work, right?
Look, I'll just give you some of my background. And I was told originally that there was only going to be 10 here tonight, so my apologies. I did 15 of those briefs up. But my background, I suppose, is a lot of motorsport, 45 years in engineering, mechanical engineering, and in the lubricant business. And a lot with lubricant design at the time for a lot of race vehicles. Some of you may still remember Frank Gardner and the Benson Hedges vehicles. Some interesting stories there with him, but anyway. Also with Larry Perkins, had a lot to do with Larry in those days. Drag racing with Victor Bray, and then we had Australian champions with what do you call Formula One boats at the time, tunnel hull boats, Formula 3s and that sort of thing, motorcycle side of the business, and that's we've got a fairly strong sort of history in that. Actually, one of the front guards, I remember that they had a Norwell track that they were racing down there. We were down there one day with, and they rolled. What used to happen is that if you bought an M series, you got, I think, 3 days, was it, on the track? 1 day in the M and the other 2 days in the 5 series. So this little Asian fella was out with his instructor on the second day, managed to roll the 5 series out there. And as they're peeling him out of the car, because they thought they'd killed him, so they're trying to get him out of the car, and he dusts him off and all that, and he goes, "New car, please." And Frank was not impressed, but anyway, with the driving school, so you can imagine how he went with the M series out there anyway. But we did some track time and that sort of thing with, I think, Paul Morris, I think it was at the time around there, and with Tony. Had Tony out at Lakeside, we did our dealer day and that sort of thing out there, and Frank absolutely tore him apart because he's gone, he actually used it as a test and tune while we were taking people out in the car, lost it, spun the vehicle out, came back, the guy that was in the car with him was probably about 70, and I think he aged another 10 years by the time they got him out of the car. He's just there. So, but anyway, look, so from my side of it, if you want to talk racing and that sort of stuff, I'm more than happy to talk about it later on. But just look, with the lube side of it, there's been an enormous amount of changes over the years where, before 2050, even your old 2002s or whatever it was, BMWs and that sort of thing, 2050 was the going thing in those. So what's happened is that dramatically fuels have changed in vehicles. So we've seen waxes, sulphurs, everything we moved out of it. You'll notice that a lot of mechanics these days are wearing nitrile gloves when they're servicing vehicles, because the byproducts of combustion now that are coming out of those engines at those temperatures, and really unleaded fuel is now more a chemical concoction than anything else. We always say that our lubricants are fine, for humans to touch, be in contact with and that. However, once they've been running an engine, there's some very nasty chemicals come out through that. One of the other things that we've seen is a dramatic change in viscosities in the oil. And viscosities meaning the thickness of those oils that we used to run in there. And just to give you a little bit of an idea, is that your latest vehicles now are running a 0-20 in some of these new BMWs you have here, particularly the LL17, I think it is, in long life 17. So just a simple thing to show you, that test tube there is a 2050, that test tube there is a 0-20. And you can see how much quicker that goes through the engine now on startup. Okay, so huge differences in that oil. The frightening part of that is that 0-20, what we're up to now, industry is now looking at 0-16, and then they're looking at future of 0-8. And what that means is that a 0-8 oil at 100 degrees is the same thickness as what diesel fuel is at ambient temperature. So at 100 degrees, that oil is the same thickness as that. So you're looking at very tight tolerances that are coming into these engines. It would be very difficult to rebuild those motors back to an original specification, simply because in the factory now they're just that tight. They're just working that well with those. But I was just trying to get a handle of the mix of the people that we had in the group, because obviously some are going to be fairly still technical, race-minded and that sort of thing. Others really don't care. They'll just put the car in, have it serviced, and they do whatever the dealership tells them to do. So again, we're just trying to understand for you guys just the differences in base oils. So what we found with our reps and the training that we give our reps and that sort of thing is, when everybody has an opinion on oils, and it's usually engine oils that they're opinionated on. That's the only thing that's emotive about it. I mean, picture it yourself. You might show an interest in what they're putting in your engine in that vehicle, and considering that front to back, every turning component in that vehicle, from engine right through transmission, differentials, all has to be lubricated in some way or another. So you'll show an exhibit an interest in what goes into the motor, But you don't really ask what brand of brake fluid that they put in there. You don't care, as long as they do. And yet, it's an extremely important component of that vehicle. And so again, transmissions now, they've developed that far now that we're 8-speed, 9-speed, 10-speed transmissions in those. I remember doing a talk 20 years ago to an automotive group, and we're talking about transmissions then. And I was telling them then that we're going to go from 3-speed to 5-speed transmissions, and they all looked at me like I had fleas. They just couldn't believe that we're going to go to 5-speed. So to get your power to the road now in these motors, the horsepower that they're putting out, and then the fuel requirements, the emission requirements of them, that's why we're going to these type of transmissions. They're all computer operated now. There's very little manual stuff in there. The lubricants that go in there now is, we've gone to LV, I think now in these ones, which is a very light viscosity, automatic transmission fluid. You're seeing CVT transmissions coming in. Yeah, God help anybody that puts in a normal automatic transmission fluid in the CVT, it will grenade badly. So they're a completely different way of operating. So differential-wise, you're now seeing dealer-only products for in differentials, that sort of thing, when you look them up. If in any doubt, we do have a website that you can go to, which does have all your vehicles and models and everything like that on there. You can actually cross-reference those if you want to across from that. But really what I was just going to sort of talk about was how we were going and understanding, in base oil. So we're starting from lubricants 101 in a way for people that don't understand all of that. But when you're looking at your base oil categories, they start out as tree and dinosaur juice at the end of the day. That's really what it is. When it comes out of the ground, and then it's processed. And there's three basic ones. You've got paraffinic, you've got naphthalenic, and you've got aromatic crudes that come out of there. Paraffinic is your main one. Like the paraffin-based oils is what your lubricants are mainly made out of. There's some very specialised one that comes out of your naphthetics, which is like your refrigeration type oils where they're using ammonia and that type of thing. But mainly, you've got your paraffinics, the building blocks for all the different types of engine oils and transmissions oils. You then run from those, you run into your synthetics. Synthetics, it's a fair sort of a stretch these days, isn't it, Brent, what they call a synthetic? And when you look at these are lubricants come in different groups. So group 1 is your old type, earlier type of base oil lubricant, and that's a group 1. So it's still got a bit of colour, and then there's a straw colour, and if you've seen it over the years, you'll find that lubricants are getting much lighter in colour as they're going into a vehicle. That is now group 3, which has been very heavily hydro-treated. So group 2 and group 3 come out gin clear now. So that's the base oil that we're seeing now. The group 3 is what they're calling the synthetic. We're allowed to because it has so much treatment to get it to that, to remove all the organics and everything out of it. However, your true synthetics are your group 4, where they used to call them polyalpha olefins. And I don't want to get too heavy into the technical side of it, but they were truly man-made products. And a lot of those were made just from gases, where they hydrocracked in a catalytic cracker in the refinery. They would crack one base oil, and they would pull the gas off from out of that. And then they crack maybe the same oil again, but with a different catalyst, pull the gas off that, reform those two gases, and then you would end up with a PAO or polyalpha olefin to base your oil on. The problem with that is they were extremely good at building blocks, but they were very poor lubricant. So you had to rely on the additive pack for those, which is why they were that expensive. They were man-made, very expensive additive pack goes in them, which the end of those was a high-priced oil that goes in those vehicles. Because prior, like my days, used to be 5,000 miles drain period. Now you're looking at 20,000 Ks for a sump drain. And much higher temperatures, and that was sort of running in there. So there is a group 5, and group 5, it's mainly your brake fluids and that type of thing that are coming in those in that sort of an area. So that's all your base oils and that sort of thing that's coming out of that. And then the amount of derivatives that they can build out of that is what you build up all your oils from and what they can do. Emissions become a large part of this, so your sump drains have become longer because they want less waste oil in the market with that. Also, there's a lot of metals and that sort of thing, heavy metals that are coming in those products as well, from zincs and that type of thing that are used as additives, plus what comes out of the engine itself. So just on that, there's a distillation column, just on one of those ones that's in there. Basically, it finishes in with number 4 as it goes through from a crude oil. The green one is where it's de-waxed and sulphur's taken out of it. Then it goes to the hydrogenization process, which is with hydrogen, and they're just pulling out organics out of it. So you end up with that, because they pull all the organics out of it. Because as you put oxygen and burning process to the organics, they become acidic, and then they start doing damage, and they start sludging and that sort of thing in engines. They just start breaking down. So there's another process again after that now, where they've gone to severe hydro cracking on that. So for a mineral oil, the goal of the refining process is to optimise the resulting properties to produce a superior lubricant. So again, it just starts off with that base. And then, for instance, the thickness of that's actually an additive pack that goes into that base oil. Okay? So sometimes you'll hear about hot blending with oil. Some of you may have heard that we do hot blending. Main reason for that is that, as you can see, that's quite thick, and that's only part of what goes in. You've also got thickening agents and that sort of thing that go in there as well. So again, you need to heat those. That's part of that blending process, so that it can actually homogenise right through the oil pack.
What sort of percentages of that?
It varies depending what you're making. Like you can get like a hydraulic oil that can be as low as what, about 10%?
0.6%.
0.6 in some of those, yeah.
They run at about 15%. Yeah.
It just depends. Transmission oils, they run quite high in a lot of those, on the additive. So, understanding viscosity. Now, I imagine you are very discerning people, but with the vehicles that you buy, and do many of you do your own servicing and service work on those vehicles? Yeah. So, the biggest part that we have is trying to explain what's sitting on a shelf, and that in there. So, if I look at one of these, I'll just hang a label off one of our bottles. But if you just look at that, the SNCF, do you all know what that means? And that on there, SNCF. The S component of that is spark ignition. So when you see an oil that starts with an S in the front, that means it's primarily for a petrol motor. The C means it can be used in a diesel engine of an early type, which is the F behind it, because we're up to CK now, okay, with that for a diesel. So when you see that sitting on the shelf, it's very quickly you can tell what it's designed for, what it's to go in. And then obviously you've got your viscosity sitting at the bottom of that. Same with this fellow, it's a C classification, so immediately that tells you that's a diesel, even though it's written on there it's a diesel, but it says CI 4. 4 means 4-stroke diesel, and so the C and the I is this classification which came up to about 2002, 2003. So the next series after that was, you've got CJ and CK now coming up in that. And these are the things that we run into. Is that how many 530s are we doing now, Brent?
15.
So this is what's happening, is that the market is so fragmented now that, like BMW are calling for their own specifications, Holden are, Toyota, Mazda, everybody's calling their own bit. And then you get your Europeans, one coming in there with Eurosia, and then the Americans with their API classifications in SAE, and then the Japanese have also stuck their nose in there now, and they've got their JSO specifications that come in there as well. So we have to match all those for what those companies require. To form that, just to make that additive base, there's millions of dollars involved in that from the additive supplier, because it's destruction testing. So they have to destruction test those engines on test benches. In a diesel engine, some of them now, the engine has actually had to do 500,000 kilometres, and then it's tested. So the engine is actually built with 500,000 k's wear in it, and then that engine is tested because it has to pass its emissions testing at midlife kilometres. So they're the sort of things that are running into building the new lubricants and going that way. With viscosity, I put a viscosity chart just in the back here. Now, what would you think? Is it like an 80-90 gear oil? Would that be heavier or lighter than a 2050 engine oil? Yeah. There's a lot of people, yeah, you're right, it's about the same. And because it's a different measure on the gear oil scale to what's measured on the engine oil scale. So your engine oil scale on this one, your crankcase, SAE crankcase is the green column. Okay, sorry about the blurriness of it. Then you look at your SAE gear oil one, this is the yellow one down the other side. So the 20, if you'll see on here, in the green lines up with the 80W pretty well in the gear. And then your 50 lines up with the 90. So 80, 90, 20, 50. And this is where a lot of people get into trouble because they think that a heavier oil, like going to a 75W, it's not. If you look down the bottom of the scale, 75 is actually right down low viscosity. Okay. That's
Could you sort of an argument for me? I've got a friend who insists that his 1050 is at operating temperature a lighter oil than a 1550. And I say, no, the second number is what it's viscosity of the operating temperature, and the first number is just the cold operating temperature before it heats up. So,
stick this chart on his nose, because both these oils, if you look over the left-hand side, that's why I didn't want to get too deep into the chemical side of it, but if you look over this side, they're measured at two temperatures. Oil's measured at 40 degrees C, and then it's measured at 100 degrees C. Now, what that means is that when you have this oil here, which is a 1050, which your friend was talking about, that oil exhibits the characteristics of a straight 10W at 40 degrees, okay? And then when the temperature is raised up to 100 degrees, it exhibits the characteristics of what a 50's thickness would be at 100 degrees. It's not that the oil gets thicker when it's heated up. You actually need to picture, if you picture a clock spring, when you wind that clock spring right up, so that molecule of oil, the polymer that's in there is wound right up tight, so it's a small molecule. As you heat that molecule up, it expands and it sort of retards the oil from thinning out. It doesn't let it thicken, it just retards it. But then it gets to a certain point, it can't unwind anymore like a clock spring, and then it just falls over the cliff.
So but a 50 weight at 100 degrees, regardless of what the cold temperature is, will have the same properties that the operating temperature. So the two oils with different low temperature ratings, like say 1050 versus 2050 oil. The 50, when they reach operating temperature, they display the same lubricating properties.
That's correct. So at a 50 grade oil, sorry, at a 1050 oil, as I said, at 100 degrees exhibits what a 50 would be if it was a straight 50 was heated up to 100 degrees. Okay, so because we're talking multigrade, that's why it's a multigrade.
It's funny because, like I say, I get people who will argue with me about this, and people who should know better, like people who work in mechanics and so forth, will tell you that at operating temperature, the first number makes a difference in terms of the final properties.
Some people call it the W, they call it winter temperature. But really, winter is not 40 degrees. It's just a class of measurement. But most of the measurements now that are coming in that we're seeing a lot of, which are much more accurate, is the ISO measurements down that side there. So you look at, for instance, a hydraulic oil, which could be a 68. You look across it, it'll be a 20, and then it'll be an 80W. So, that's what I said, you need to look at how they're classified in different businesses. I've listed that over a time frame for some of you that are interested, the BMW oils over that period and the engines that they go in and that sort of thing as well. So I'm just going to run through some of the additives and that sort of thing as well, and then just sort of get into some of the racing products. And sorry if I'm boring some of the ladies to death and some of the other guys, but it's just, the trouble is it's just this big mixture, and to try and do 45 years into half an hour is pretty difficult. But so we're looking at, so your anti-wear additive is also known as friction modifiers. These additives obviously reduce friction, prevent metal-to-metal direct contact. Now, the way some of those additives work, they are heat and load activated. So they do absolutely nothing in there until they come under load and heat. They're there to protect those two metal surfaces. So what happens is that self-sacrificing. So if you've got an engine that's working extremely hard and under high load, high temperature, you will suck that additive down quite low. And that's why we do oil testing and that sort of thing as well, like use the oil testing to see just how far you've pulled additive down out of that engine. So the main one that was been around the market for a long time, you always hear people talking about zinc. I don't know, the zinc dialkyl thiophosphate is your ZDDP, which is the zinc additive for anti-wear. Thing is that everyone waffles on about additives. We've decided with some of the racing oils to go a lower zinc level, but we've got the synergistic effect now of we've been adding titanium dioxide to that. So the titanium dioxide, it actually treats the metal surfaces in that in there. So you get a surface treatment of the metal, and then on top of that you're getting the zinc component and then in there as well. And given that racing oils are usually one meeting oil, a lot of those anyway, you don't go racing and then the oil stays in the car, particularly if you're going to drag racing, you're using nitro fuels, alcohol fuels, all that sort of thing. You must drain them out because they're hygroscopic, they draw water to themselves, you start getting rust issues inside the motor. So again, there's so much that goes into that. That's right. We're also using potassium borate ester in that as well. We use those in the heavier. So we do a 25-60 viscosity oil and a 40-70, which is mainly for you're looking at some drag racing and that type of thing as well, and touring car type racing with the V8s. So the borate, same thing again. It's a metal surface treatment that's coming in through there, as well as the zinc, but it's capable of taking a very, very high load, high heat in that application. But it's usually made for engines that have got fairly high clearances because you're using a lot heavier oil. They've got much more clearance in the bearings and that in there. Okay. Thought you said it wasn't going to be technical, Brent. Okay. So I'll just list some determining factors when we are looking at making an oil for racing. So some of you are interested in racing side of it, so this is why I just sort of put that together. So again, the type of performance engines that you're looking at are either your endurance, sprint, drag racing, motorcycle, your boat racing as well. You're looking at different induction systems. You're looking at carburetor, fuel injection, forced induction, turbocharging, and your supercharging. All those jam extra fuel into the sump, so we have to contend with that. So you've got various fuels going in as well. So you've got high octane motor spirits going in there. You've got ethanol, methanol, nitromethane, and you also have other they're called oxygenators that are going in them as well. To some of these vehicles, you go into two-stroke, your synthetic, and you've got your caster-based oils as well. So Castrol used to make, years ago, they were making caster-based oils for motorcycle racing and that type of thing. Used to have a nice smell to it, but geez, they were dirty. But so methanol, as I said before, methanol fuels are very hygroscopic. Hygroscopic meaning it wants to draw water to itself. They're mostly one meeting oil. So your engine specifications to be considered as well is your operating RPM and the duration of that. So for instance, in drag racing, so a 4.5 second pass in a top fuel at 7,500 RPM, that engine's only turned 850 revolutions. So from the line to the quarter mile finish line, that motor's only turned 850 revolutions, and it's usually a smoking wreck when it gets to the other end. It's either kick the rod out or something like that. So it's just the amount of power that thing is generating through the type of fuel and also forced induction that's going into those motors. So these engines produce 6,500 to 7,000 horsepower, which meaning they're doing about 800 horsepower per cylinder in a nitro engine, which if you're looking at a V8 touring car, is about 650. So they're doing 150 horsepower more in one cylinder than what that V8's doing. But it doesn't last quite as long. It's all over in about 4 seconds for it. So, yeah. Well, they reckon how do you make $1 million in drag racing? You start with 3. It's pretty well hit. That was the thing. So again, one of the biggest determinators for us is bearing clearances. That's running about to making it oil. So as bearing clearances come down, we're looking for oil pumps that are going to put through. You want good flow from an oil pump. Everybody's going pressure. Everyone wants a hole through that motor if you're not careful with that. So we're looking for high volume in a race engine so that it's actually pulling away the heat from the source that's making it, and also it's taking away the detritus material and that out of there. So you want high flow, good oil pressure, but high flow. Those type of motors. Okay, so again, race engine with tyre tolerances with a high volume pressure oil pump, an engine at 9,000 RPM, a 2560 at ambient temperature will create enough viscous drag to actually spin the bearing shell out of the conrod. So it's got that much viscous drag, it will actually pull the bearing out of the conrod and destroy the motor. So if you've gone too heavy in the oil, too much viscous drag, it will kill the engine. So an alternatively, a 020, like we were talking about before here, 020 in an engine with wide clearances of about 2 to 2.5 thou, it's just not enough there for it to. We call it a hydrodynamic wedge. So the oil has to form a hydrodynamic wedge. So when you get rotational speed from a crankshaft, picking up the oil, it's actually picking up a wedge, and that wedge causes separation between the two metal surfaces, and it actually rides on that, it floats on that. If you run too light an oil in there, with too big a clearance, it's losing the oil too quickly, can't form the wedge. So again, camshaft configurations, you're going from overhead cams, multiple cams, or you're going push rod. So these are flat tapper cams with the push rods. That's where your additive comes into consideration again with the zinc. Synthetic lubricants, they're not always the answer to a situation. The example was Larry Perkins. We did the oils for him. Not with this company, but we did oils in the past for him. And he picked up about 6 horsepower by going to full synthetic. This is back in the early days of the 90s. So he went full synthetic engine, transmission, diff, and that through there. And he picked up about 6 horsepower, which was significant. If you're going down Conrod Straight or something like that, it just gives you that bit to go a little bit quicker past them. Problem was that what he found out was that you have Torrington bearings in your lifters and also in your roller rockers, and they were pounding, they weren't turning, because the oil was that slippery and that light, it wasn't having the Torrington bearings turn around anymore, so they were just on a flat, so it was wearing the shafts flat and that in there. So I had to change the oil formulation so that it had enough tackiness in there so that it would actually turn the bearings around in there. Just little things like this, by changing one thing, it caused another. With that. So heat and engine temperature is a major consideration with high performance engines and lubricant selection. Motorcycles, again, they're a headache because the amount of horsepower the motorcycle is now producing per litre of engine is phenomenal. So you're not only doing high revolutions, you're doing high heat, but you're also trying to lubricate a transmission all in one go. So again, motorcycles are very, very hard on oils and that type of thing in there. So they're the sort of things that we're going to synthetics in, and they perform very well. We have a broad range, in the titanium range. I mean, there's some little brochures I've got here somewhere. There they are. So you have your 530s, 540s. 540s are very common, in these modern motors now. So your 540s, 1050s, 2560s, and 4070s that cover that range of racing. So you have a huge amount of additives that we're sort of looking at, which is, again, looking at extreme pressure additives, which the differentials take, and gearboxes, they take extreme pressure additives. Again, those additives are sulfur phosphor, sulfur chlorine based, a lot of those. And again, they're not really activated until you're in city driving. Those ones. So a taxi will wear out. Like we're seeing these days that they've got filled for life on some of the differentials. That's total crap. If you're driving a taxi and you're on, off at the traffic lights all the time, every time he takes off with a hot differential, he's wearing out the additive pack that's in there, Once that's worn out, all you're left with is just the base oil. Your additives are gone. There goes the diff, the bearings. You may as well just throw it away. So yes, you do need to change the oil from time to time in vehicles like that. So this fill for life thing is always a bit of a worry, you know, and with transmissions as well. Your EP additives are also found in your greases, that type of thing with that. Viscosity improvers and pour point depressants. That would have a pour point depressant in there. Meeting cold temperature, it stops it from forming waxes and that in the oil. Wax has already been removed. A lot of it's already been removed out of the oil in that refining process. You've got anti-foaming agents. I think usually silicons and that sort of thing, aren't they? Yeah. So, and that's what's being added into your diesel fuel now. If you fill up with, some of you might own diesels, I'm not sure whether you do. When you fill up with diesel now, if you did that 10 years ago, you would see foaming coming out of the tank and you would have aeration and you would probably not getting your full charge of fuel that you thought you were. Now, you don't see that anymore. There is, because of the silicon that they've added to the fuel, it's just filling it right up, there's no aeration. Because if there's aeration of the diesel, you lose performance. Because then you got very fine molecules of air. You can't compress the fuel, but you can't compress the air. So you're actually filling up that chamber, but you're squishing it down. So you need to use more throttle position to actually get that engine to perform. So. Antioxidants, which of course, you know, as we said, green dinosaur juice, it's going to have oxidisation material and that sort of thing in there. So we have to remove that through a refining process, otherwise you're just going to get acids and sludge building up in there. Metal deactivators, which is just like corrosion inhibitors and sort of thing coming in. Because that motor has so many different components in there, you know, where you've got rubbers, you've got aluminium, you've got brass, you've got steel, you know, that's all running through that engine. You need to make those inert and deactivate those, otherwise they'll react with one another. It's usually the alloy parts that go first, through any corrosion, through acids and that. So you'll start seeing pistons dissolving and disappearing. There's also detergents and that in there, because the only way that you're going to get the rubbish out of an engine after it's been run is by having detergents, and they form a skin around the molecules of acids and everything that's in there, and that can only be taken out of that motor by taking the plug out and draining it at the end of the day. You've got tachiness agents, which I'm sure you've seen commercials on there from another company with molecular this, that and the other. Well, it's just a tachiness agent that keeps it into contact. So with a camshaft and that type of thing, and going to these light oils now, they run back down into the sump rather quickly. So you need to have a tachiness agent in those that will hold it on those metal surfaces, you know, for that. Yeah, we actually produce products for farming, for instance, where when they're finished, an additive to that, which slowly breaks down in the oil, which actually coats those gears until next season. Seal swell agents, you know, they're obviously, you know, the different types of materials that are sealing an engine now. Those seal swell agents have to keep those seals in check. When I was with BP, we had a major problem with we changed the makeup of the fuel, and it cost them 16 million roughly Australia-wide, where they replaced just about every neoprene seal in every old Toyota, Massey Ferguson tractor and all that sort of thing out there. Because what happened was when they removed some of the aromatics out of that fuel, the seals that had swollen up because of those aromatics being there sealed the engine. Once those aromatics were removed, the seals returned back to their original shape and leaked like a sieve. So they had to be replaced. So again, look, current and future trends, you know, vehicle manufacturers' pressure is, as I said before, like Brent was saying, we've got about 15 already of those light type engine oils. And it was just seeing significant changes in fuel composition. Europe had a major BMWs that they couldn't bring out here, the diesels, simply because the fuel was above 50 parts per million at the time, which they just didn't run on. It just wasn't good for them. Now that that's dropped down, because we used to be at 5,000 parts per million sulphur, then they dropped to 500, and then they dropped to 50. Now we're down to sub 10. So that's why you're seeing a big dieselification of the market here. But now we're also seeing a turnaround where you've got direct injection petrol. going into some of these vehicles now. Before they were injected into the ports, now they're just injected straight into the cylinder, and then you're getting turbochargers coming out, so you've got small capacity motors with turbochargers pushing it pretty hard in there, and the manufacturers are trying to get what they call stoichiometric effect. Stoichiometric effect is where you have your fuel and air ratio exactly at that point where you're getting the biggest bang for your bucks out of it. So, and that's computers are doing all that for us now. Yeah, we're never done. So again, there's growing dependence upon synthetic base oils. We're just seeing a massive increase in the market in that. And over time, like synthetics were incredibly expensive some years ago. They've actually come down a bit over time, but we're now seeing some problems in the industry where we're not producing enough anymore because of the jet fuel saga out there. They're blaming it on jet fuel that's sitting there. I think, what was it, to make 1 barrel of lubricant, you required 10 barrels of crude base, wasn't it? Yes. Yeah, so to make 1 barrel of lubricating base oil, you required 10 barrels of crude. Problem with that is that you've got to find a home for the other 9 barrels that come out of that crude, which is either bitumen, it's going to be unleaded, it's going to be Kero, or Jet A. So there's tankers now sitting around the world full of Jet A. Can't get rid of it. Which will, yeah. So also there's reduced metal requirements, heavy metals, so they won't take zinc out of the formulations as well. There's reduced sump capacities we're seeing in a lot of vehicles. So they're increasing the service interval, but they're reducing the sump capacity. So the oils have to be right up there. And lighter viscosity oils is where we're really heading. And as I said, 1990 we're still using, one of our biggest sellers was still the 2050. And now, as I said, we're heading towards 0.16 and probably 0.8 in the future. So that's me. So questions, please.
When you're looking at older cars, so cars that were, say, 30 years old now, when 2050 was a standard filter, they probably had different, so say the additives, it's not just the weight, the additives, which will probably change over years. So what's your general recommendation for people with those older cars? You look for
what we usually do, and we've again, we cured some problems for some Mack trucks at one stage. They were 575 horsepower Mack V8 diesels. They were built in 1985. So what's been happening is they've been putting 2015, 2017 oil in these things, and they just got oil running out the exhaust on them. They just don't respond to it because they were never designed for it. When we went back and put them on the oil it was what they call Mackie OK at the time, you put them back on that oil, end of problem. And they just settled back in. They were quite happy. You had to lower the the service interval. You couldn't push them out of that long-range service interval. You just had to cut them back to about 10 or 15,000 Ks, and they were fine. They're happy on that because that's what it was designed for back in 1986. And that's really what you should be looking at too, is when you're running that type of vehicle, if it's built back or rebuilt back into those same specifications, then yeah, that's what we need to do.
So how do you find out what those specifications for?
Look up on the website. Owners' manuals have a lot of that in there, with the old specifications.
They tell you the weight, they don't tell you what the zinc content should be.
In that, well, if you go back into that type of oil to that period, it's already got the correct level of zinc in there. You know, for instance,
if you buy a 2050 today, it'll have generally the same amount of zinc.
Yeah, pretty well. Yeah, like ours is what's called Senso Classic or something like that. And that's
a more modern API classification. You really need to look at, and they're all supposed to be backwards compatible, and they are to a certain extent. But when you're trying to go back half a dozen classifications, you probably need to be looking at an earlier type of oil.
Okay, we need to wrap it up. Sorry, guys.
No, you're right.
Look, thank you very much. We've obviously just skimmed on the very surface.
It is the tip of the iceberg.
I think we'd like to possibly do this a little bit more in depth. We might try and organise a tech day or something.
What we could do for you, if you like, is we got our boardroom and that up there, and we could also organise that you actually go through our plant and you actually see how things are made. Is that all right, Brent? Should I ask Brent?
Yes, Brent.
Should I ask Brent first?
We offer it to our customers,
Yeah.
so it's no different.
So we're more than happy for you to come through there, and you can actually see how all these things are done, how they're made, and what goes, what's sort of in behind it.
It obviously needs to devote a lot more time than we've allowed you this evening. I'm sorry about that, but thank you very much, everyone, for that.
Thank you for the invitation.